All right. Hello, angel leaders. Welcome to our leadership Zoom. We're so excited for this specific call. We've got our amazing guest speaker that is going to be breaking down a lot of facts in this business that it's so important to know in order to handle some of the rebuttals and some of the misconceptions of party planning and direct sales. And so I thought, what other best person to break that down to us than amazing superstar director and shining star recipient of 2018 of Becca 2018 Becca Levi, who also happens to be one of my dear friends, and I know that she is to you guys as well. So we always are so excited to hear from her. And I just love seeing you. I miss you. So so I'm excited that so Nina Mancuri reached out and said that she sometimes gets people saying that they're nervous about like the pyramid scheme and the multi-level structure, that it makes them nervous. And I think that all of us sometimes get a little like hesitant of how to come back at that. And so I asked Becca if she can come on and share with everyone what she kind of shared with me when I called her up and said, hey, this is information that I really don't know if I'm saying the right thing, and I don't want to train on it if I don't know what I'm saying. So thank you so much, Becca, for being on. And I'm going to actually zip my lips because I want to give Becca as much time to share what she knows and all her experience and knowledge that we have available. So
You're so cute. I think I know everybody on here. So, and of course, Melissa, I wear dresses every day. So I think of you every day, girl. And Cindy, I just love you and your husband. And Susan, you know how proud I am of you. And Nina is the one that I have spent the least amount of time with, but she has just this neat glow about her. So, and I think that's all of us, right? So actually, this shouldn't take very long. Because, Jess and I were talking and I said, I've been doing a lot of these Zoom calls because people consider me the excuse busters in Scentsy. So they usually call and say, let's do what you share best, a belief in excuse busting. And I said, there's always, and you guys, probably heard me say this buku's times, but when Callie and I do a leadership retreat or anything, we have always spent in all 10 or 11 of them that we've done, 70% of our time on belief and belief in several areas. There's this book out there, and I've never read the book, but I love the title because it says it all in the title. And it's If How To Was Enough, we'd all be rich and happy and, skinny and all the things that we want to be, because it really has nothing to do with how to, because the how to is pretty simple. People show us the same basic how to's in anything that you want to be successful at all the time. So if the how to's were enough, we'd be there, but they're not, because the crucial thing is what drives us as individuals to do the how-tos, to do the income producing activities. And so when people keep showing up and they have a great big desire and they're not implementing the how-tos, or they're giving up on the how-tos, it's because they are weak in their belief. And so what I ask people to do is get really clear on what they believe. And so you have to have a solid belief in the business model. And that's the one that we're directly really, the focus of tonight, why this call came about. So we'll get back to that in a minute. And then you have to have a belief. So a belief in the business model and a belief in our company and a belief in what's possible. And then the clincher is belief that we're worth it and that it's possible for us. Because even if we can believe in the business model and we can believe in, the company and the products, and we see people who make really good money, not only just in this industry, but in Scentsy, because our compensation plan and our product line now is 100% used in 100% of homes, right? We fill so many needs, multiple levels in a home or office. And our compensation plan is so generous, and it has nothing to do with what we look like, and it's not hard to articulate, and it's actually depression, recession proof of we've always said, and we've seen that in this last year, right? Because it is a mood changer. So so people can believe all of those things, but if they don't believe they're worth it, that money could happen for them, then none of their how-tos matter either. So as leaders, we have to work on that for ourselves to break through the levels that we're at. And we have to look at those areas and see where are those, and probably for everyone, it's always a work in progress. And, usually we have to work on all of those areas. So the self-worth is huge. And so when you're working with your people, you need to find out where their weakness is in that. So tonight we're going to talk, like we said, about the objection that a lot of people have. And that is, hey, Amanda, I didn't say hi to you. Is if they had a belief in our business model. So for like me, the biggest thing when people say, oh, that's a pyramid scheme or whatever, I feel all holy grail soapboxy about that. I'm like, oh, you want to talk about pyramid scheme? Just let me tell you. You know what is the biggest injustice pyramid schemes out there is all the 9-to-5 retail and office jobs, right? Where you do all the hard work. You sit in a chair and break your back or your neck, and your eyesight and headaches, or you're standing on concrete all day. And no matter how hard you work, how punctual you are, how kind you are, how considerate, what great customer service you have, you are capped out on whatever salary they have promised you. But does everybody in the company make what you make? No, the higher you go up that pyramid chain, the people at the top are the one that's making all the profits and all the bonuses and all the benefits and all that, all the money. So if you want to talk about pyramid, let's just talk about every store you shop at and what every office you deal with. That's a true pyramid. And then people are like, whoa, yeah, okay. I never really thought about it that way. You're right. You got room on that soapbox for me to join you? So that's what I'm saying. When you really understand our business model and how it's the most fairest opportunity for an individual, and the rest of the world really isn't. The people at the top, the managers, the corporate people, whatever, they take all the money. Well, then, then you understand true pyramid. So that's what I'm saying. When you get really a solid belief in something, when someone comes at you, your whole body, your whole aura, your whole energy says, no, that is misinformation you have. And I'm just so happy to correct you on that. And so you see what I'm saying? There's an energy, there's a confidence. So when we have confidence in any of those things, the umbrellas that I talked about, confidence in our business model, it shows, and we can just sit there and we feel it's like it's that they're suffering from an injustice because they've got the whole who's the pyramid scheme wrong, and we can set that right? So you just want to build your confidence in all areas. Like for me, I always say I'm really grateful that I had known women, not like well at all, not that I didn't even have their phone number, but I had been to places, or my husband had known them, that made 50 grand a month. So I had a belief system that the network marketing would pay you really good money. So that's why we say you need to have your people and yourself be surrounded and talk with people who make that amount of money so that you can build your confidence in it. So that's something that that if people do the things highly successful people do, they will become highly successful too. Has nothing to do with how good you look. One of my favorite stories that Terry shared with me from his early experiences with a company called A.L. Williams that's now Prime America. He said, one of their conferences, one of the top earners in the company got on stage and he wasn't anything to look at, and he couldn't, he was just super shy and he wasn't articulate or, anything. And talk about like a company where you have to really know your stuff, laws and all the things, and you have saturation, that's insurance. And the guy said, this is how I got successful. I just asked 10 people a day, you don't want insurance, do you? And he was already braced for the no, right? His body was braced because he's like, come on, I know you're going to tell me no. You don't want any insurance, but you know, I got to talk to 10 people today. And people love to do the opposite of what you tell them. So with that commitment of 10 people a day, there was always at least somebody who said, no, wait a minute. I actually do. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of speaking to enough people daily and weekly and monthly, because it's a numbers game, it's an exposure game. So if you have confidence, then you're going to do that, right? And so I'd always tell people to say, you don't like candles, do you? And let me tell you, your fragrance candle addicts are like, what are you talking about? My friends tell me I you know what I mean? And you're going to find that out just by being willing to just say, I know you don't like candles, do you? Right? There's just these things, the how-tos are really simple. And thankfully, the good Lord above helped me see that this is where I needed to be. And I wanted to prove him wrong. So I did the how-tos for 30 days in a row. And I decided that I would plug in a warmer for 3 to 5 people a day for 30 days. And I already was having a nervous breakdown. I already was doing 48 trade shows a year with our other company, and I was Mrs. Utah, and I'd written some books, and I was a mother, and I handled all the sales transactions and the phone calls. So to do one more thing with something that I'd already proven in our past wasn't for me. I just wanted to do the best I could do for 30 days to show the man upstairs that he had it wrong, so I could get back to the life I couldn't even keep up with. And because of that, I did the how-tos because I wanted to kneel before him and say, you were wrong. I did everything. There's not a stone I left unturned to show you that this is not for me. And luckily, thankfully, he's always right. And whatever my motive was, I did it. And that's why I know the how-tos work, and that it truly is a numbers game, and that he had prepared my heart and mind in a lot of areas so that I could move forward once the success started coming. And I will tell you that when the success did start coming, I had to deal with what I always call a little itty bitty icky committee, because all my unworthiness issues came up. And that happened for me. I didn't think that I could see, hey, maybe I could make that money that this industry promises a woman can make. Yeah, but I don't think I'm worth it. And so people will sabotage themselves. So again, if we're not constantly working on their beliefs and we're not working on our belief, even if the success starts to come, we will sabotage ourselves down to our belief about what we deserve and we're worth. And that's why working on belief and receiving is so darn important. And then the other thing that I learned from Terry from that same business plan that he had was one guy stuttered and he just couldn't get through a presentation at all. And so he said, wait a minute, if it's a numbers game, if it's an exposure game, and it's just about having the conversation with enough people at the right time in their life, then, and I don't, basically, as I would say, right, if you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. I don't know what he thought, but basically came to the conclusion, which was, I'm going to have this guy, this other distributor that speaks really well, record the presentation for me, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to play it for so many people a day. And so he sat there, said, I'm not a good speaker, but my product is good. So do you mind? I'm just going to push this button and you can listen to a guy who explains it better than me. And because he did that enough times a day, he didn't let an excuse get in his way. He did enough so that the exposure happened and he was able to become one of those top earners on the stage. So that's what I'm always saying. The how-to we can get around. We always say you don't have to say the right thing to the right person, because you can't say the right thing to the wrong person or the wrong thing to the right person. If it's part of their destiny, it's going to work, but we have to be doing it enough times. And so what keeps us from doing that? That is doubt, a lack of belief in either our business model, in our worth, and in our company. And I think it's really easy to believe in our company, especially after all these years. And so really it comes down to those other two areas, getting so confident. You want to set people straight on what a true opportunity is or isn't. And then two, and that's what I love so much about my walk with Cincy, was that that's what I wanted to do, was help people believe in themselves and believe in their possibilities and believe that all of us have so much the maker wants to give us, because truly as we liberate ourselves, we liberate others. And So for me, I probably said this before, you know, I love the book, The Dream Giver, so much. And the Flip Flop CEO helps people. But here's the thing too, everybody wants somebody to believe, to give them hope. Like when someone believes in something that you want to believe in, but you don't, and someone comes along and they're confident and they believe and there's this bright light about them and they have the things that you want, you can sense that, not so much even in materialism, but just something about them, and they offer you something, you don't want them to waver because you want to follow them. And so what by us believing and doing, the more success we have, the greater our confidence is. And then the greater that is communicated to others, they want to follow. So we have to be the one that is willing to do that extra hard work to show them that it's worth it for them to do the hard work. Any thoughts or questions?
I have lots of thoughts that I wrote down. I wanted to make sure that everybody caught some specific things. I remember back when I first started Scentsy and listening to your trainings, one of the things that I learned from you was that kind of reverse psychology type mindset of asking the question, like, you don't like candles, or you don't want to make extra money, do you? Or you don't know anybody that wants to brilliant. And that worked for me. Like, I sponsored a lot of people, and it's so funny. I haven't thought about that concept in I don't know how many years. And it's exciting for me because I haven't done these strategies or thought about these strategies in a while, but I know they are true and I know they work because I exercise them consistently, and it helped me build my business. And it just makes me excited to be able to, it just shows that you can have the knowledge, but if you're not utilizing that knowledge, it's not going to do anything for you. And so I'm just excited that you took the invitation to come and share this with us, because it makes me excited again for my business. Because sometimes I have to say, what was I doing? What was I thinking? What was I saying when all these people were joining and things were going great and blah, blah, blah. And we have to remind and keep using that information and those tools. And then I just, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person and the wrong thing to the right person. That when I first heard that from you, it was like, oh, but it gives you a confidence when you really think about that, because the right person that's looking for an opportunity is going to jump on it. But the wrong person, no matter what perfect, shiny golden egg that you give them, they're not ready to change. They're not ready to make, step out of their comfort zone, and whatever you say to them is not going to be good enough. And so we don't want to work with those people, right? And Becca taught me that a long time ago, that why would we want to even try to change somebody's mindset? Because you can just move to the next person. You give them the opportunity, it's there, they know it's still there. You let them know if you're ready or things change, it's still there. But you're going to move on and work with the people that are ready to make changes and ready to receive that opportunity. And just, I just had like mind explosions, just rehearing all this stuff. And I'm like, I know this is fact, this is true. And it's so neat, but it also reminds me of how much we always have to be constantly feeding ourselves and our minds, and of either reminding ourselves of what works and what's true, or learning new things. And somebody on our last call just said that, it was Cindy. She said she received some information from a training, and that she knows she's heard it before, but the way this specific lady delivered it, it made her think of like creative ideas for her business. And we really can hear the same thing over and over and over again, but until we're ready to receive it and actually act upon it, and it could be just that delivery that really makes it click with us. So that's amazing.
Can I interrupt for a second, Jess?
Yes, please do.
So a couple things. I had met Lisa Olson, who was my sponsor 2 years before. It was the right timing. And we had a private label lip balm company. Lisa Olson had been by our booth, and she was like, do you put anything on a lip balm? And I said, yeah, if it's not vulgar, we do, you know. And so she said, here's my card, it's Scentsy. Could you put that on there? And I didn't know what Scentsy was. And I'm like, sure, whatever, you know. But when I ended up joining several years later, which, so I don't think it would have mattered what Lisa had or had not done, because I believe in the bigger picture and divine right order and timing and whatever. But when I ended up joining under Dorothy, she always acted a little wounded around me. Lisa did. And finally one day she said, why don't you join me? I talked to you first. And I'm like, well, first of all, you did talk to me with a card, but you didn't tell me what it was and you didn't ask me. And she said, well, I could see that you were a businesswoman, you had your own business. And so I wouldn't have asked you because I thought you were too busy. So she made an assumption that, and so she never even asked. And I believe still I wouldn't have joined at that point because God wasn't putting it in my heart. 3 weeks before he did put it on my heart, I would have bet anybody $50,000 I would never do direct sales, because one, I tried to do my own party plan, but I decided I didn't like to be out in the dark at night with other people. I like my bag of potato chips in bed watching, you know, or reading or something like that. And then we had a candle company ourselves, and I found out scent made me sick. So that's why, you know, that's why when you trust every day and you ask, where should I be? What's my next best step? And you're constant really desiring to live your bigger picture and just be a service to planet and to others, and you trust that, then the right people will come to teach you lessons. Maybe they just need your bright light and they're only with Scentsy for a few weeks or months, but then it's time they need to go. We should always just like keep our hands open, you know, say, fill my hands with my life with who and what, and then appreciate it, make the most out of it, trust that no matter how ugly or good it looks, it's still all a gift. And then when things go, let it go. Because if you start to close your fist in attachment, then now you see, I can't take any more in. So as long as we get into fear and attachment, we can't take any more in until we just relax and trust that, hey, there's a higher power who wants the best for everybody, wants us all to be our best self, have the best that there is to enjoy, and have the best kind of impact on the planet. And so to do that, I have to be trusting and open. And the other part of that is then doing the things that don't make sense, right? So that's why I just knew that this was a mistake on my first 30 days there, because scent made me sick. And if we were going to be in the candle business, when we do something where we kept all the profit, and I already knew I didn't like home party plans because it involved too many people out at night, you know what I mean? So that's why I thought I knew what was right for my life. And in my effort to prove him wrong, you know, I was on my, I made director in 2 months and superstar director in a year, and ended up making a top 10 income earner by my beginning of my second year. And it was because of I did it in massive action. You know, we always talk about doing the massive action. And the reason I still think massive action is important is because if you're just talking to one person a day and it takes you 10 people to get a no, you're 2 weeks into the month and you haven't, I mean, you know, before you get your first yes, and that's discouraging. So if you're planning on doing it and offering it to a lot of people every day, knowing that your job is just to show up, to go up. Your job is just to offer it. And then the people say, no, great, next, because somebody out there is supposed to be part of my Scentsy family team. Somebody, this is part of their future. And if these people are saying no, it's because it's not yet. And I will say that how we ask them is hugely important. You know, because if they say, oh no, if you've asked them and said, hey, you probably don't like things that smell good, you probably don't like candles, and they said, oh, I'm a fanatic, there should be no reason that they say no to yours, right? So the second thing then is, hey, then have you had a personal experience with Scentsy? Because if you just say, have you tried Scentsy, they're in a hurry, or they just don't have time, or they're thinking they don't have money. If they buy another candle, their husband's going to kill them or whatever, they're going to say yes, even if they haven't. That's why I like to say a personal experience and always offer a free demo. For me, it was all about the demos. I mean, I literally was plugging it in. We had very few products. Now, even if they're like, oh yeah, I use Scentsy. Well, have you tried this with Scentsy or this or this? There's always a new product to demo, or a new scent to get them excited to demo, right? We always have new seasonal scent. There's always something we can demo, whether they're new or they're old. And then I just wanted to piggyback also on when you brought up, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, right? Because if it's the right thing in your time, you will figure that out. And sometimes for them, it might be just getting to know you for a year before it becomes the right time. That's why I said with Lisa, it wasn't my right time until it was my right time. But we have a dear friend over that is in his 60s now, and he has had trouble finding a forever partner. So he's been divorced like 5 times. And he's like, I just want to be married. I just want a companion. And he said, I'm just so frustrated because I'll get so far in a relationship, everything's going good. Then I open up and tell him, hey, I've had 5 past failed marriages. They all run. Like, I hate women. They're just not compassionate. And I'm like, no, you haven't found your person yet. You've probably tried to force these other ones in desperation. And if someone's going to run when they get a little information from you, then guess what? You can't say, even in that, and even in that experience, right? I said, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person or the wrong thing to the right person. And he's like, that's right. So it's just, again, trusting that, we have more, even with all the opposition and ugliness, there's still a power greater that's on our side that wants us to succeed. But again, it's the law of the harvest. We still have to, once we believe that if you plant seeds, enough of them are going to grow. I mean, if you think about it, if we planted 1 carrot seed, the chance that we might just get 1 carrot is nil, right? That's why we throw a whole bunch of seeds out there, because it takes a whole bunch. So, yeah. So the other thing I really have found is working on not being attached. And I found out that our body language tells us so much about ourselves. And I noticed that I was sleeping with my hands clenched a lot. I'm like, okay, something in me has got me so whatever, that I started to I want to remind myself all the time to really say in every way that I can, that I really want to just receive and let things come and go as they are a blessing to people and to me. And so just really not getting upset. And so when people come and say, Becca, hey, yeah, I made, $15,000, $20,000 a month with Scentsy, and for some reason I want to go chase another object, or this happened or that happened. I hate to see them go, but I'm like, okay, your time here obviously is done, and I've enjoyed what we've had together and what you've taught me, and maybe I haven't enjoyed it, but I'm grateful for what I learned. And here's the thing too, because if we're doing this, we can't let the people who are supposed to come in. And we won't be in a place of trust and offering, because we're too worried about what we're afraid we're going to lose to see what we're going to gain. If we could just trust, let go, and keep the daily questions happening. Okay, thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Susan wanted you to share, if you don't mind, how you did your demos.
Okay, so back then it's just all I had was we had the warmers and the scent circles, and I always would have my warmer out of the box, and I would always have, we have several categories, and people tend to like a couple categories and hate a couple categories. So I call them fruity and flower and clean and bakery and spicy, and we have the other. So I would always have at least a cube already ready to go in each of those categories, so that when I came into someone, and a lot of them for me was just going into homes and or offices, like if I knocked on a door and I would say, I didn't have a lot of warm market because I was always traveling and everything, so pretty much everybody was a cold market for me. And I would knock on the door and I'd say, hey, if you have a minute, I say, you don't like candles, do you? And then they'd say, oh no, we love smelly things. I said, great. I have a scent circle for your car. If you let me plug in this flameless warmer for you for 10 minutes and see if you like it. And just for letting me demo it for you, I'm going to give you a scent circle. Actually, we called them, they were car candles at that time. But so, that's what I would do if I went to a strange neighborhood with people I didn't know. And so I always say, take a buddy with you when you're going to go into neighborhoods you don't know, and you're not soliciting, you're just demoing. So But so I don't know, where you live in your city. And sometimes you have to have a license for where you're at. So if you're going to do these sorts of things, but also everywhere you go, right? A lot of people are so busy and they're running places everywhere they go. And like me, I was traveling on the road all the time in the beginning. So I would plug it in for the clerks at the hotel. I'd leave them plugged in, one in my room with some information for the maid. Wherever I was setting up for the day, I would plug in a warmer there. When you go into an office, the first thing I say, and this seems so counterintuitive, is I would just walk in and say, and I'd be looking too, because I know that they don't want to be, they're busy, they're stressed, you know what I mean? They don't want to be sold. They don't want to be bothered with anything. So I would walk in and I would say, where is a plugin? And I would be looking for a plugin that would be convenient for me to plug in the warmer. And they'd say, and I'd be, oh, this looks like this will work, and I'd like plug it in. And while I'm doing that with one hand, I'm basically saying, hey, which one of these scents do you like? And then they would go, I like this one. I'd be like, okay, perfect. I'm just going to put this in here and you just unplug it when you go home. And I'm going to leave these other ones. And if you get tired of this one or somebody in the office doesn't like it, just, clean it out, put in a new one. I'll be back in 3 days. And here's the thing, because if you go and you say, hi, my name's Becca, what's your name? And can I plug this in? They're thinking, their mind goes, I don't know. Can you? Who are you? What is this? So I didn't like go into any of that. It was like, people are kind of like that story of Pavlov's dog. Like they like a leader and they will follow you. And so that worked like 90% of the time. And all you needed to work is what in the sports they say, they get paid to only, hit a home run or make the shot or do the touchdown like 30% of the time to get their millions of dollars. The rest of the time they can fail out, right? And so of course, failure's part of the success equation. You cannot do positive math without a certain amount of failures, and they usually outweigh what seems to be the pluses. So, and I know, like, even in my small community, because I traveled most of the time, but when I was home, I started going around and I thought, well, I know these people are poor. And so they're going to be so interested in the business opportunity. This is going to change their life. And I know they don't have any money. And then they'd be the ones that somehow found the money and bought from me and didn't join. And because I was so excited my whole life looking for an opportunity, even though I didn't think it was candles or Scentsy or Home Party, but just a business that I could make money from home. And so when I found one that I realized that the people in it came from all walks of life, they could stutter, they could dress poorly, they could do whatever, and they were being successful because we had products that at that time, 97% of homes and offices used. And it didn't take any articulation. All you had to do was basically demo it enough times and ask the 3 golden questions, and you could be successful. And also that gave me confidence as a leader, like right now, to tell you or anybody else, I know you can do what I have done if you just do what I did enough. I'm 100% sure. And when you know that, again, that communication we have that is mostly people get from us is 90-something% nonverbal, then they believe you too. And they want to believe you. They're just afraid. They're afraid of failing, afraid of what people are going to say. And that's why they need us to be on our soapbox that anything is possible. And seriously, with Scentsy, oh my gosh, it's like you have to work not at all so for it to not work,
I just want to back up everything she said, because everything that she's talking about, I've done, because she shared her stories of that it was possible. It gave me the confidence to say, well, if I follow a successful person, I may not get the success that she gets specifically. It may not take the time frame that she got, but if I'm following what successful people do, I'm going to get more success than if I don't, right? And one thing that I learned from a seminar I went with Tony Robbins, one of the things that one of the speakers said is that success leaves clues. And so when I saw the success and where Becca was and what she was receiving, you follow those steps, and those are the clues. What was she doing? She was getting out in front of people, and she had the confidence that they did want that product instead of worrying, oh, I wonder if they're going to like that product. And so it's a switch of the mindset, it's a switch of the verbiage. And, you know, one thing about what you mentioned, Becca, about how everybody's communities are different, which is so true. And so, but I can validate that if you know, if you put a focus, you have a goal. Every community I've ever lived in since I started 10 years ago, I have walked my neighborhood just to meet my neighbors. And, you know, it sounds like the old Avon lady, but are people doing that anymore? They're probably not. And that's why I got results where other people aren't, is because I'm taking action. And so I'm about to move again. And do you think that Jess doesn't have plans to do that again? Absolutely, I do. It may be different. They may have specific rules. So start with one thing. And this is all stuff that I learned. It wasn't in my brain. It was learned from Becca, from other successful people, that I, you know, to make some brownies and just say, hey, I'm your new neighbor. I want to get to know you. You know, just so you know, I like to know my neighbors. It's safer that way, whatever, and build that relationship slowly. And of course, intentionally, I'm going to wear my Scentsy shirt while I come to meet my neighbors. And then it's giving an opportunity. If somebody likes Scentsy, they're going to go, oh, you're a Scentsy consultant. And then that's just more to talk about. It may not happen that same day though. Like I may wear a Scentsy shirt 5 times that they see me, but the conversation may not happen until 5 times later. But the idea is to stay consistent and stay focused on where you want to go, instead of giving up when it doesn't, they say no to you, or they don't notice that you're a Scentsy consultant the first time. And I'm literally just backing up how true every single thing Becca is sharing, because when I don't use those tools that she's sharing with us, I don't get the success. And so that's all of us, is that it's specific actions. And one thing I always share is when people say, oh, I want what you, Jess, what you have, or I want what Becca has, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to do what 2% of the world is willing to do? Are you that person? And it really, I can't emphasize how much that it's the belief in not only all the things that, you know, the business, the product, all that thing, but when you don't believe that you're worth it, of course you're not going to take those actions. So if you don't believe you're worth it, ask yourself why. And are you telling yourself a story that's true, or are you telling yourself lies? And it usually is lies based on non-facts, right? I share with you guys a lot about being a leader, that, you know, you're sitting on top of a podium where you're a target. You are doing what people aren't used to doing, and some of them aren't willing to do. So you have to be okay with people misunderstanding you, you know, not liking you, the way you do things, thinking they can do it better, whatever. But when you are able to say, you know what, this is why I do what I do, this, and I always tell you guys that as long as the man upstairs knows why you're doing it, and why and how you're doing it, and in your heart you know your purpose, that's all that matters. And you have to just keep asking yourself, like, why do I want this? What am I willing to do? And how am I going to do it? And if you don't know these 3 things, it's going to be really hard. But then what I really want to say is that if you want what Becca has, or even what I have, because I have still a long way to go, and I'm never going to stop trying to grow financially, personally, you know, emotionally, everything, knowledge-wise. Are you willing to do what the next person isn't willing to do? Are you willing to do what the 2% or even 1% is willing to do? And if you're not, then you have to be okay with getting the results that you're getting, because people don't make $109,000 a month like Becca does. Income disclosure will be added by doing non-scary things. And she'll tell you.
Not every month, right?
Oh, yeah, not every month. But you've made it. You've made that much money.
Oh yeah, you've made it.
And anybody that knows how much she makes on a low month, you would probably fall out of your chair anyways. And it's possible for every single one of you. And one thing that I wanted to add is that how you were sharing how the first person, Lisa, introduced you to Scentsy, but you ended up joining your sponsor. That happened with me. I had somebody just shove a catalog in my face and say nothing to me. And where did that catalog go? It went at the bottom of my floor on my passenger seat, and it got mud stains on it, and I ended up throwing it away because she never talked to me about it. I knew I was broke, so I didn't even want to look at the catalog because I was like, I know I can't afford whatever's in this catalog. And then 4 months later, because I met my sponsor like a week later, I saw her at Scentsy Convention, and I had director on my name tag, and the girl almost fell over herself. Like, wait, I gave you a catalog. Who did you join? And I had to say, well, the person that talked to me and told me about what's available and how I can build, a business with knowing nobody. And so we have to be okay with situations that it might sting, like, ouch, that person joined somebody else. But it also, one thing that Jen Audette, one of Becca's front lines, and she's one of the most highest paid consultants in Scentsy as well. One time I had somebody that I had been their consultant for a while, and they moved away. I thought they moved to Germany, and I was going to connect with them. It was like a big, long story, but I didn't stay consistent with connecting with that person. I told myself that, oh, well, she's moving away, and I didn't know enough about Germany or whatever. So I disconnected myself, my own mindset. I literally lost that opportunity because I told myself I didn't know enough. Well, do you think a couple months later, when I reached out to her and said, how are you doing? Are you settled? She's like, yeah. I go, so do you want to talk more about Scentsy? She's like, oh, don't you know I've been a consultant for about a month now? And wah, right? Ouch. And what Jen said to me is, she said, you know what? Divine right order. Just like Becca taught me that everything happens in divine right order. That person may not have been the consultant. You may have not meshed well. You may have whatever, and she may have been a pain in your butt, and God was helping you out by not her signing under you. And so we have to accept the punches as we go along. But as long as we grow from them and learn from them, that's all we can do. That's all we can do. So if you want to hang up your Scentsy, bag or whatever because you got punched down or pushed down or fell flat on your face, then you're going to be doing what everybody else does, and you're going to be the one that says, oh, I used to be a Scentsy consultant, it didn't work out for me, because you weren't willing to go through the ups and downs that the people that are successful are. And Becca will probably tell you she fell probably flat on her face a lot more than found success. It's just people always sees the pretty side, the successful side. Am I right, Becca?
Oh yeah, for me, like literally when I was building my business, so I built my business with the business model plan in mind, that when I got to a point where Terry and I's health or philanthropic desires were where we wanted them to be, that I would have systems and people in place to do the day-to-day work so that I could use the money for doing the things that took a lot of everything to do. It's not easy. They're easy things to do, but it's not easy to do all the things to make us do them. That's why we're talking about how much work it is. And so for me, because of opposition and the little itty bitty icky committee, and my life was so loud screaming at me and giving me physical sensations of nausea and sick paralyzation, that I had to literally have in the car, in the cassette tape at the time, or when I'm doing dishes, when I'm cooking dinner, no matter where I was, I had to be playing somebody that had had a successful overcoming in any aspect of their life. And then of course a lot for direct sales every second, because I had to have the belief, because it was constantly being stolen from me, from my little itty bitty icky committee and other loud voices, was constantly be taken from me, that I'd constantly have to be putting it in. So, and the minute I felt like, yes, maybe just one more conversation will do the trick, I could take that action. But I mean, it's like I literally had to have an IV going into my ears to help me to do that massive action enough to get the results. But then eventually I got the results, and now I can be that speaker because it's my own experience and I'm not relying on them, right? So if that's what it takes, and I had my house literally plastered with 8.5, 11 sheets with every quote, then every word I wanted to be the truth for me and my life and my children, and what I needed to remember So it was taped everywhere. My Victim or Victorious book, I call it the wallpaper principle. I mean, I was hearing it, I was reading it, I was making sure that that voice was stronger than the strongest one that was tearing me down. And my husband would say to me, oh my gosh, how many times do you have to hear that? I don't know. It's not enough yet, obviously. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, it was things that most people aren't going to decorate their house with 8.5 by 11 or make that the sole source of the things that they took in. And for me, you know, so it was things from direct sales, from other successful people. And of course, you know, for me, like the Prayer of Jabez and the Dream Giver and just anything that helped feed my spiritual belief as well. So yeah, it just doesn't come from one good conversation or one good meeting. For me, it was as long as I was awake, I had to do it until it became my reality.
And now your daughter is running the business and you're able to retire and do travel or, you know, do whatever you want. And that's what these businesses are built off of, to be able to, you know, leave an entire organization, a legacy to your family is what it's like. A lot of people think that is to be just like, you know, not reality, but if you think it's not reality, you're not going to do what it takes to make it a reality, right? But if you believe it's a reality, then you're going to do what it takes, and you're going to be okay with it taking longer than you would like it to. And you're going to be okay that if you get a detour, like I've had a big detour in my business, in my life, and I've had to accept that and decide, like, am I going to just give up and let all the hard work that I did put in just go to waste? Or am I going to pick up everything right where I left off and start moving forward? And that's when I had to make that decision, because I had a lot of the confidence that was built through those first 6-7 years of my business ripped right out. And I'm like, I tell you guys a lot that it's like I was in a coma and you're waking up and relearning everything. And so I had to ask myself a really hard question. Am I willing to go through that again? But the nice thing is, because I've been through it, it's you get back on the bike and you start to see, oh, I remember this. This is actually, I remember how to do this. You may not be doing flips on your bike the first couple times, but you're riding your bike and you're willing to learn and go through those motions again. And like I said, that you have to decide. I talked to you guys a few weeks ago about the 5 Ds, and the first one is you have to make the decision. Is this going to happen for you? Because if you don't decide that this is going to be the tool to making your dreams come true, then you're not going to do what it takes. You're not going to stretch yourself. You're not going to learn new things. You're not going to read a book that somebody says helped them. And because if that decision isn't made, it's going to be very hard. And that's one of the biggest lessons I ever learned. Was I decided from the second I clicked join that I love you, that this was going to work. Whether I didn't know how long it was going to take, I didn't know what actions I was going to make, but the one thing I did right is I decided from the second I clicked join. So if you haven't made that actual decision yet, just be excited that once you do, and you know, things are going to be amazing, but it doesn't mean it's not going to take hard work. Because I always say Scentsy is simple, because it is. It's a slam dunk compensation plan, product, everything, but it's not easy. And so I also remind you guys that I tell you that making, let's just say $109,000 a month, even $10,000 a month is available to this type of business because you're doing what most people aren't willing to do. So you're compensated that way in an amazing way, in a financial number that most people aren't. It isn't reality to them because they're not willing to do the things that you're willing to do. And so that's how the direct sales business is such a huge blessing. And you do have to rely a lot on faith and trust and doing things you're not comfortable with, and start becoming comfortable being uncomfortable. Becca, can you shine some light on when somebody says, is this a pyramid scheme? Like what the difference of what an actual pyramid scheme is, and how you know that Scentsy isn't one?
I don't really go into that argument because to me, we all have the thing that speaks to us the most. And I know like with the true pyramid scheme, there is like just money and there's no usually product. And, that's usually the main thing is that there's no product or service. It's just a exchange of money. But come on, that's kind of flat. I mean, come on, the truth is to get them emotionally really think about the injustices of our unpaid, unfair, work hard, don't get, somebody else gets thing. But,
So that's the basic. If you're like confused about what a pyramid scheme is there's no product being exchanged for money. We get taken out of that category because when they buy their kit, they get a product and we don't get paid for them joining. That's another reason. So be confident, know that knowledge if that's what their only concern is. Because a lot of people had told me, I've never had this happen, but a lot of people told me, they say like, well, how much are you going to make if I join? They want to know that number. Well, nothing unless you do something. And, so that kind of gives them a little bit more confidence to say like, oh, okay, so you're not only asking me to join because I'm, you're definitely making money off me because, and I love, you brought something up, Becca, that I wanted to elaborate on. You talked about feeling the neutral like area. I actually read a book that I earned from one of your leaderships. I won a drawing and it was called The $1 Million Year. And I shared that with a lot with my leadership team here. And one of the things that stuck out the most is about feeling neutral when somebody joins or if they don't join, because just because they join, I mean, you could be excited, but don't go like, oh my gosh, because you get on such a high. And then when they do nothing, they do nothing with their business, you tend to fall and go like, wah, wah, wah. And you feel like, oh, what did I do wrong? And, this, and, you're sad. But if you're just neutral and you're looking at it as a business that, you're congratulating them for their new business and that, okay, somebody joined, but now the next step is they need to do something. And so these are the best practices for them to do, meaning to put their 500 in their first 15 days, to hit sensational start. You can be excited for them, congratulate them, they have a new adventure. But if you're like on top of the hill just because they click join, it's going to be, you're going to find a lot more crashes on the bottom. And your emotional level is going to be really hard. You're going to feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster all the time. And you can really burn yourself out that way. So instead, feel neutral. When they say no, don't get wah, 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 and be sad like you want to go crawl under a rock. But also don't get too excited when they join because we know that they're not going to do anything they may not do anything. I'm sorry about that. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, it was like such a relief because I was going through this. I was like, yes, I got 3 people this month. And then even though I got 3 people, like 3 of them did nothing, and so you feel like, but when I looked at it as like, I'm doing my part and one out of the maybe 10 people are actually going to do something. When you understand the structure and the math behind it, the statistics, you're able to control your emotions a little bit better and look at it like a formula and a business and properly celebrate, with them instead of getting such a big attachment to them joining. And I'm not saying don't be excited when you sponsor somebody. I'm just saying,
right.
Yeah. So,
no, fantastic thoughts. I know one thing that was before Scentsy, I was one of those people, like if I didn't know everything about everything, I'd literally be sick and nauseous and didn't feel like I could move forward and fairly represent. It would be horrible. So I had to know everything about everything. And I guess, I don't know, but my husband, Terry, was very wise. And he said to me, because I was like worried about, because there's a lot of complication in figuring out how to get paid and what bonus here and this, there, and that, and that, you know what I mean? There's a lot to take in the beginning. And he said, one of the smartest things to me, he said, Becca, right now, he said, if you don't sponsor and you don't sell, none of that's going to matter to you. None of that's going to matter to you. So you go out and sponsor and sell. And then when you get the paycheck, you're going to want to know how you did that. And your mind's going to be all engaged. It will hold on to it and you'll learn as you go. And I know that I found that very, very helpful when I was helping people onboard, when they would get caught up in that and just say, no, you know what, none of that's going to matter anyway until you sponsor and sell. So you go do those 2 things and it's all, this knowledge is going to is going to come. And the other thing that Terry does really like to say, back to your earlier question, Terry, Jess, is he really loves to point out that nobody gets paid more when they sell a product than you do as an individual consultant, right? Because the most we might ever get is 5% on the wholesale, right? And they get 30%, up to 30% on the retail value of it. So that compares nothing to a 5%. So if someone needs to wrap their brain about some of those things that you brought up, you know, that's another really good point. We don't make anything on joining, and we only do it, but you get 30+%. And we get, because, you know, once you go into start hitting different lead and star and whatever, you get the extra bonuses on the wholesale volume. So, but just, you can stick right there with, hey, you get 30%. The most I may ever get is 5%. And that really helps de-escalate it too.
That's a great point. Very important to point out. Susan says, I always tell people that sponsoring means I work harder to make any money, because if I'm not meeting my numbers, no matter how hard they work and earn, I get nothing. So that's how you explain it to them, as far as if they are asking that question. Any thoughts on that, Becca? Anything to add to it, or?
Well, I don't say it exactly like that. That's kind of what I say to them, because they're always like, well, what do you earn if I join? And I always tell them, well, when you join, eventually, once you start making your numbers, my numbers have to be higher to earn anything. And the most I'm going to, and I do use that analogy, I only earn 5% off of what you're going to make, or 2% off of what you sell. So in the long run, I always look at it like I have to work harder. You know what I'm saying? Because as we grow, like Becca was saying, like right now I'm superstar consultant, but once I grow up into lead, then my sales have to be more than what they are now. And I have, you know what I'm saying? So I always look at it like I have to work harder, if that makes
right.
any
So
sense.
when you tell them, like, that's so true. And when you tell them that, do you feel like that's like, I'm just wondering if something just some little less than that in the beginning would be easier for them. Like, do they go, no?
It probably would be easier if I could find an easier way to say it.
Yeah,
Because, I've had a couple that, you know, like Shauna is a prime example of that, because Shauna was my customer for 1.5 or 2 years before she actually joined. And she's like, oh, but I just like being your customer, and I like you getting the money off of me. And I'm like, but Shauna, I said, you are so passionate about the product. I want to see you be successful. And she wants to get out of being in the medical field and stay home with her grandson. So I want to help you do that. And she is, and we talked today. I said, you're just like her mom is going to be her diamond in the rough. Shauna is my diamond in the rough. We have 37 people on our team, and you can't tell it by our numbers at the end of the month. It's ridiculous. We can't even hit 6,000 because most of the people we're recruiting don't work their business as a business. So Jess is right. 1 out of 10 people is going to be that successful person. So, and I'm seeing that now. I'm seeing that really big now, because we can try and we can be there and we can try to help them. But just like me, I shunned help for a long time. But when I know I need help, I reach out. But I have several on my team that never reach out. I'll reach out to them and they don't reach back. So we're always going to find that one. So if you could give me an idea of how to say it less, that would be amazing.
Well, I would just saying, hey, just so you get an idea, the most I might, depending on how good of leader I am, would make 5%, where you would be making at least 30 or 25 to 30, and leave it at that. That's a lot just for them to digest that alone. So less is more, you know, especially when you realize we've been hearing this stuff for a long time. So it's a language we understand, but anything we're telling to somebody new is foreign to them. So it's like Jess would say, it'd be like, wah, wah, wah to them the whole time, like talking to double mask.
That makes sense. Thank you, Miss Becca.
We also don't want to disencourage them by looking at, you know, the possibility of growing their own team and making that extra money. So when we kind of shut it down of saying like, I make no money unless you make, you know, like we want to make sure the words that we're using is benefiting everybody. Like by keeping it less is more, like Becca said, it's giving them just enough to know what they need to do to make money, which is sell themselves. That's what we need them to start do, but we don't want them to be thinking, well, I don't want to have to work too hard, meaning because she's telling me she's not making any money unless she works her butt off, because that may be detouring them and making thinking I can never sponsor, I never want to, because in the end, you're actually working smarter, not harder, when you are sponsoring and building a team, and you actually get to sell less and still get that sponsoring bonus, because eventually you're going to get to the point that you can't sell enough stuff in order to match or even get near to your sponsoring bonus. And so that's why the compensation plan keeps the 500 minimum all the way up to superstar director, because now your efforts are being fluctuated, your time, your effort. Like, you know, I sit on calls for, you know, an hour at a time. You know, is that going to make sure that people are going to work? No, but I'm investing time in order to other people. And that's what Becca's doing as well. Like, Becca doesn't even get paid off of you guys. And so, but she knows that, well, she's run her business off of serving other people. And that's why that laws of attraction, you could say, and the just everything works. And one day, maybe I would roll up to a different level, and then people that are my front line would roll up to a paying generation. It's possible, but right now she's doing it at the kindness of her heart to help all of us. So there's just so many different.
Melissa had a question. What's your question, Melissa?
It wasn't just a question. I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, for coming on. Every time I hear you speak, you just, I don't know, like my heart cries, because I've been listening to you, like when I get to see you in person, and like we talk, and like when I first met you and all the things that I hear from Jess, it's like, you know, you go through the motions, and then after a while, like that itty bitty icky committee like gets in your head. And I always like, belief has always been everything that you guys have said tonight has just been amazing. And like you talk about belief, and like I'm not a director yet, but when I am, my team name is going to be Yes, I Can, because it's the definition of belief. Belief is yes, I can. And I always say it's not enough for me to say yes, you can, because you have to believe it for yourself. Yes, I can. And when you had said that when people show up and don't go anywhere, it's because they don't have a strong sense of belief in what is possible, that we're worth it, our business model, and in our company and in our products. Like, I have to, like, I don't know, I've heard it a million times, but just you just said it a little bit differently this time. It just changed. Like, I don't know. And I love that. Like, that's why I love to do trainings, and that's why I show up. I mean, I'm slowly clawing my way up, but I don't know, like I just love that when you hear things, sometimes you hear it just a little bit differently, and it just changes like the like scope of everything. And the books that you've mentioned, I've read, like I don't know. And like right now I'm reading the Stories That Stick for the second time, because I really believe that stories, like Kendra Hall talked about that during, what was it, World Tour? No, was it World Tour, Sensi Family Reunion? One of those. Anyway, she talked about stories, and I don't know, like it's like it's the same things over and over and over again. And one of the things that I was telling my team members is sometimes it's not enough to just do the same thing. Sometimes you have to do the same thing, but then change like that point of view, change it like to over here, and change it to over here, and change it to here, and change the things that you're doing. So even though you might be sharing the Easter collection, start emailing it, then text it, then, you know, share about it from your standpoint, share about it from your kid's standpoint, share about it from a big kid point, you know, and it'll eventually touch somebody. And I feel like it's the same thing with belief. Like you just belief is such a personal thing that you just have to find the thing that sticks. And sometimes it isn't what is possible that is a problem, but maybe it is. Do they feel worth it? And I don't know, just everything. Like I took so many notes, and I'm so happy. Like,
Hey, I just adore you.
I'm just so happy. So thank you. That was all. It wasn't really a question. It was just, I just wanted to say thank you.
And Cindy, I'm loving your hair color. You look good. So it's all perception. Is that what you're telling me? And I've got the better one? That's all I'm thinking.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. But just like Melissa said, this is going on just past my 5th year. And every time, I talk to you or I see you, like Melissa just said, and you say things maybe a little bit different, and it makes such a big impact. And then Jess will say something worded a little bit differently, and it makes a big impact, but it really helps. My belief is that it really helps me knowing that from the top down, this company is very, they care about us and they care about what happens about it to us, and they have a belief in the Lord, and that's why I'm still here. It's because you guys, and top down is, the, like you said, the man upstairs, he has plans for all of us, and so I'm gonna cry now, so I'm gonna shut up.
Oh, I'm just so happy to see your guys' faces. I just love you so much.
Any last comments or questions for Becca before we close it up tonight? Okay, so I think everybody that is on tonight was on the Monday call, and because we went a little bit long and we didn't have time to close our meeting with a prayer, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day and for the sisterhood that we have that Cincy has brought us together. We're so grateful for Becca Levi, our dear friend and mentor, that she always listens to the Spirit and is inspired to share the things that we need to hear and inspires us to see what's possible. We pray that we'll continue to step out of our comfort zones and to be able to receive that gift and opportunity that will bless our lives with the resources and life that our dreams give us, and so they may become reality. May we be able to offer this blessing to those that need it and be able to lead them in order to find and achieve their goals as well. We're grateful for all the blessings that thou bestows upon us, and that thou has brought us all together very divinely and intentionally, and that we are able to learn together and grow together and support each other as sisters and brothers in this family. We say these things humbly and gratefully in thy Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Nina. Thanks, everyone. Love you.
Love you guys. Bye.